So I don't actually have a brew. I has a beer, which currently a Cobra, which I'm now going to crack open. It's going to be like on the floor. This is going to be live to tape because I might cut it out if somebody interrupts me or something like that. Oh, that's nice. So, basically, this is going to be a new segment that I've decided to do based on feedback and everything else, which is a beer time. It's not going to be a weekly thing. It's going to be more of maybe a monthly thing. It kind of depends on what's going on. I'm currently wearing a vest. I don't care how much hate I get. It's Friday evening and I just cannot be effed anymore. I was actually not going to bother with this video because, because I've been so bloody busy this week. So basically what this is opposed to like brew time being more news, I find this is going to be more like personal, like let you know what I've been doing in the week. Kind of tales from the service desk, kind of like support desk-y, help desk kind of side of things, and just general stuff as it goes. I'm going to turn my phone on to silent, and I think what I then might do is do this as a live shoot, so you guys can actually view it and stream it and stuff like that if you think it's any good. If it's not, and if you think it's a load of shit, then I won't bother with it. We'll forget it ever happened, and there we go. But so if you can give me some feedback on how it goes, that'd be great. I don't know how long it's going to last. It might last half an hour. It might last 10 minutes. I don't know. I've got lots of stuff to just kind of discuss about shit that's going on. And so there we go. So I wanted to kind of talk about Windows 8 because a lot of people have been slagging Windows 8 off reasonably recently, and for perhaps the wrong reasons. And I kind of want to do maybe a bit of a compare and contrast with my personal experiences of Windows 8 and Windows 7. So some people have been saying that Windows 7 is better for gaming than Windows 8 was, and another list of reasons and stuff like that. And what I wanted to sort of touch over is my kind of experiences with how Windows 8's kind of gone, and what I've really experienced in terms of the performance that I've got. So I've been running Windows 8 now since the developer preview of standard Windows 8. I've been running it since then. It's been great. I've not had, I wouldn't say any problems. I've had some problems, but I've not really had very many problems at all. And when Windows 8 came out as a release to manufacturer, as soon as it got to the stage where it was solid and it was pretty much bug free, I used it as my primary kind of operating system to play games on because that's kind of I put it on my main PC and I played games on it, and the performance increase with Windows 8 compared to Windows 7 is quite big. I noticed a 10%, at least a 10 frames a second extra performance in most of the games. Now, whether or not this is to do with the drivers for my graphics card, it could well be that. It could be the drivers for Windows 8, or it could just be Windows 8 itself. Windows 8 memory management is a darn sight better than Windows 7's was. The task manager just looks better. It's just easy to read, especially when you go into like performance and look at what the NIC's doing and all those other kinds of bits. If you kind of forget that the Metro interface kind of exists, or whatever they're calling it now, the Windows interface, the Windows 8 interface at least, if you forget about that, just, and run with it, just how you would use Windows 7, how you've always used Windows 7, maybe changing the way you use the operating system a little bit more, you kind of get on quite well with it. And obviously you can apply third-party start menu kind of things, and it's really, really good. And personally, I always recommend Windows 8 to people. I now recommend Windows 8, and if you can't get on with Windows 8, I recommend Mac. Especially for the kind of the older generation, or the kind of essentially the noobs that I deal with day to day at work. I have to say, Cobra beer is fucking amazing. Just fresh, cold out the fridge. I've needed this. I had a beer yesterday. I actually had some. I actually still here, kicking around on the floor. I actually had some Budvar. The Chechen stuff, the import stuff. It's fucking amazing. Somebody on Twitter mentioned that it was the best beer they've ever tried. It's not the best beer I've ever tried, bar none. It's not the best beer, but it's probably the best, mid of the range kind of lager you can get. It's much better than Carling and Carlsberg and all those shitty watery coloured lagers you get. I did have to cut though because I'm fucking decided to come in and out the door and make a ton of row. So yeah, it's like one of the best beers you can probably buy in the kind of the next one up from the cheap shitty like Foster's and Carling and all these other flavoured coloured watery pieces of shit they insist on calling alcohol. So yeah, I had some of that, and then I've been dying to have a proper drink for ages. I actually bought some spiced rum today. I also bought some gin today because it's Christmas, it was on offer, and I need some alcohol in my life. I'm not an alcoholic though, I just like good drinks. So yes, anyway, Windows 8. Yeah, so Windows 8 is bloody good. I have to say, 10% increase, or 10 frames a second increase on my games, on most games. Battlefield 3 would perform better. Pretty much everything I played through just played better. The frame rate just seemed to increase. And that could be for a number of reasons. That could be just the way that Windows manages graphics, manages memory. It could even be the drivers for Windows 8 that are fucking amazing. I don't know. But yeah, so I had the performance increase with that. And so, because the only reason I'm mentioning this is because somebody on Twitter said, "Oh, Windows 7 is the best for gaming, Windows 8 is a bit pointless upgrading to Windows 8. If you've got Windows 7, it kind of is pointless upgrading to Windows 8, really. If you've got a bit of extra money kicking around, it's worth upgrading to Windows 8 for the performance increases, for the fact you've got a better task manager, just for all the kind of benefits you get. I use Windows 7 at work, I use Windows 8 at home, and I use Windows 8 to game on, I use Windows 8 to video edit on, I use Windows 8 for everything. I put it on my laptops, I put it on my IBM ThinkPads, I put it on my regular laptop that I take home with me, my Vio. I put it on pretty much anything that can run it, really, which is damn near any machine. I mean, even a Pentium 4, at least as long as it's got 2 gigs of RAM, and it's at least a Pentium 4, because if you're going to run it on Pentium 3, it's probably going to struggle. But at least a Pentium 4, it'll run fine. I mean, probably will be a little bit slow on a Pentium 4. Quarter Duo would run a little bit better. Ideally, actually, one of those AMD A4s that kick around. I was going to mention, because like the Amazon daily deals of like the Black Friday deals, which were last week, which I'll go over later on. There was an amazing deal for an Acer something or other. 150 quid for a machine that had a terabyte hard drive, something like that, 4 gigs of RAM. No, it didn't have any operating system, and it had some shitty graphics, onboard graphics, but it had an AMD A4 chip. 150 quid. It was a fucking bargain. It was ridiculous. It was a tiny little box. I thought it would have been made an ideal little home theatre PC, something like that, because it was just so good. And I was just blown away by the price. Unfortunately, I didn't buy it because I couldn't really justify it to myself. I haven't really got 150 quid kicking around just to lay down on a random PC that I'm probably not going to use. I'm going to just use it for testing purposes. But that was on eBay. That was fucking amazing. I can't believe that. Like during the Black Friday deals. But anyway, back to Windows 8. Very, very sidetracked. Yeah, if you're umming on about upgrade to Windows 8. Performance increases, just do it. It's just worth it. Just trust me. It's worth the money. It's just worth it. I think you can actually get an upgrade for something like 40 quid, maybe. I don't know. Something like that. But yeah, so upgrade to it is amazing. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of put some people's minds. Well, actually just basically tell people how it is, because Windows 8 is better than Windows 7 for performance. Maybe not necessarily so much for productivity, and if you're just going to use it for the internet and Word, then no, it's not going to make that much difference. But if you're going to use it as for gaming and for video editing and all the other things, then yeah, definitely upgrade to. What is it? Oh, this stuff is just so refreshing. It's like the easiest beer to drink. Some bloody idiot, I'm not going to mention his name, but he will watch this and he will be very offended. Some idiot claimed you can only drink Cobra beer with curry, because this is obviously what they serve at, it's the same with, what's the other stuff? There's Cobra and there's Tiger beer. They were saying, oh, you can only ever have it with the curry when you go to an Indian, but that's just wrong. Just so many levels of wrong. And then I thought I'd talk about Windows 8 for Business, because there were some people going, well, actually, no, I think Microsoft themselves are going about using Windows 8 for Business, which is a big no-no. there's somebody else who's saying, oh, why don't you just upgrade everything to Windows 8? Basically, if you work in IT, you already know this anyway, or at least you should know this. You don't generally roll out a Windows operating system until at least Service Pack 2. And considering we've only really had one service pack, which was kind of sort of ish a service pack, I guess, Windows 8.1, you kind of want to wait a little bit, wait until at least Service Pack 2, because then most of the bugs are ironed out, and then you can deploy it. The trouble is with when you go to the business side of stuff, more often than not, it's the business side of stuff that's broken and not necessarily fixed, because most businesses don't upgrade to the newest version of the Microsoft operating system until a couple of years after the fact, at least a year or two after it's been released. And so Microsoft don't necessarily have the bug reports and everything else to go with it for business customers in terms of linking it in with Active Directory, just little bits and pieces like SCCM, which is System Configuration Something Manager, basically allows you to deploy software to PCs. And so a lot of the bugs haven't necessarily been ironed out. So if you're in IT, you don't deploy it to a business. I mean, of course, you can run it as a test environment. You can even run it on live network, to be honest, because Windows 8 is pretty much stable. Would I join it to a domain? Probably not. At least I would at least pair that up with a Windows Server 2012 box that's running the newest version of Windows Server, because the newest version of Windows Server, I have to say, is effing amazing. I mean, there's some things they've kind of left out of it, but as an interface, it's pretty good. Perhaps as the way they kind of do things from an old standpoint, perhaps not. So if you're doing the same old things, it's a bit shit. But in terms of stuff like hypervisor, so if you use a lot of virtual stuff and you use the cloud a lot and you use Azure and you use AWS, it's great because you can manage like all of your virtual servers under one server. It's fucking amazing. It's brilliant. And to the extent that actually, you kind of want to deploy it in the cloud in one of your data centers and kind of just leave it and have it run your cloud. Have it do all your automation and all the stuff that you kind of want. Obviously, you still need to have some human intervention there because automation always fails. But your stats and all that other reporting and things that you need to do on Windows Server 2012 looks great. It works great. A lot of probably technical people will say, "Oh, it's effing shit. Why the hell would I change from Windows Server 2003?" If you are still running Windows Server 2003, why for a start? And where the hell have you been for the last? Well, for the last 10 years, because Windows Server 2003 is XP kind of territory. It came out in 2002 probably, because it's 2003, although 2003 would be the year. Obviously, more often than not, it's probably the year before it was released, like the end of the year, so the end of 2002. But, Windows Server 2008 R2 is pretty damn good, and then Windows Server 2012 is better again, personally, I think, anyway. There's been lots to talk about. People saying about running Linux as an Active Directory / radio server kind of thing, which is alright, I guess. I personally wouldn't. If you're running a Windows environment, I wouldn't use Linux to run the things. Personally, for me, I have the necessary skills to run Linux at all. I barely know very much about Linux as a desktop operating system, let alone as a server OS. Especially when it comes to configuration, installing it, and just everything else, because it's easy enough to fuck up. With Windows Server, it's quite easy. I mean, it's kind of guides you around a little bit. Ooh, pardon me. That's that bloody beer. It's his Cobra. But with most Linux servers, you generally have to go through the CLI, and you can have GUIs, but generally it's not necessarily recommended because in terms of security anyway, and in terms of resources, you don't necessarily want to be using a GUI all the time. But it's I wouldn't recommend running a Linux server unless you really know what you're doing. Unless you're the kind of guy that uses Linux a lot and you really seriously know what the fuck you're doing, then I just would not even touch it with a 10-foot barge pole, really. Is it 10 foot, 24 foot? I don't know. It's a random barge pole of obscene length. I think Linux has got its good points. I wouldn't run it in an Active Directory environment. The only reason I would run Linux is I would use it in my routers and things like that. And at home in a kind of a home office kind of environment. So things like FreeNAS and Things like IP-Fire, for instance, which is based on Linux. Things like IP-Cop and Untangle and those kinds of things, I would run those because DHCP and stuff. Because there's some people that run Windows Server as a DHCP and DNS server and as a router, and personally, I wouldn't do that for the simple fact of security. Having everything under one box is a little bit, especially if it all dies. I would say run things through something like IP-Fire or IP-Cop or whatever your corporate appliance will be, security appliance. They'll dish out DHCP, it'll do firewalling and all that kind of stuff because that's what it's dedicated for. Then run your Windows Server as a for Active Directory and OUs and managing your computer environment with user accounts and that kind of stuff. Because really, I wouldn't trust Windows to manage that kind of stuff. It can do DHCP fine, it can do DNS fine. I just wouldn't trust it as a firewall, and I kind of wouldn't trust it really for much else. Because there's much better products on the market, especially when you're actually paying for it. Things like Untangle, for instance, which you can pay for. There's some effing amazing virtual appliances you can add on to Untangle, which is bloody good. So that's kind of my geeky techie bit out of the way. And then I wanted to kind of talk about what I've been doing today. So this week and last week, it's been very, very hectic. There's been loads of stuff, and so kind of that as part of that, I thought, I'll tell you what, let's actually share kind of some of the stuff that's happened. Unfortunately, I can't share a lot of it because a lot of it's kind of unique to the institution that I work for, and if you have a bit of knowledge, you might be able to figure out from there where I work. I'm not going to tell you where I work because it's kind of a little bit of a contentious issue. If anybody from external relations was to watch this or any of my bosses, they might not like it. So I'm not going to mention their name because I'm just not going to. But so one of the things that happened last week, we had a request. This is when I was working on the support. Well, it's like a help desk I work on, as well as doing all sorts of other stuff, so I answer phones and respond to emails. And one of the requests that came through was for somebody wanted to borrow, one of the Hyatt managers wanted to borrow a laptop with HDMI out that would be able to stream the NFL, which was very interesting. I don't necessarily think that's a good use of company resources and time, to be honest, but so that kind of happened. Then what I've been doing, so today I went down into one of our student open access areas. We've got these computer rooms that students can kind of come in and use PCs. As you see, like most universities have them anyway. And we've got this scrap paper, scrap paper drawer, I guess. And laying on top, there was a insurance claims form that included somebody's name, somebody's address, somebody's telephone number, somebody's email address, the car they were driving, their registration number, their MOT number, and a list of other personal details. And I looked at it, I was speaking to a colleague of mine, and I was just absolutely awestruck that anybody could be that stupid as to leave a piece of paper that's filled in with all the personal details. Because any old buddy could have just picked up and walked off with it and gone to the house and knocked on the door and all the other bits and pieces that happens with identity theft. As much as it's very unlikely that anybody would be able to do that, it's just stupidity that you would do that in the first place. I just couldn't even believe that. It's just like, why? Considering this is kind of like frontline news at the moment about security and about data protection, everybody's just so effing stupid to think that's such a good idea. I was like, I know what I'll do. I'll just leave my insurance details lying around so that anybody can pick it up and just walk off with it. I even think it had their policy number and all these other people. Coincidentally, it was with Admiral. They had, I assume they'd written off the car. It was 15 grand's worth of, not 15 grand's worth, 1,500 quid's worth of claims they were putting in. I don't know whether this was for write-off or whether or not they'd crash into something or whatever. But yeah, that was it was just stupid. I mean, they just don't do it. I mean, it's just like, you do deserve for your identity to be stolen for somebody to get you into massive debt. Because if you're doing that, you just deserve to be fucked over, really, to be honest. By the way, I'm not drunk. Some of you may be thinking I'm drunk. I'm not drunk. I'm just being a little bit silly because this is a very chilled out thing. I'm having a beer. This is kind of what this is all about. So just calm down. So the other thing I was doing was I was suited and booted to go round to student halls because we've got a problem. I'm going to say a problem because if I specify the specific problem, you may be able to figure out where I work, and I don't want that to happen. So, we've got this problem with Wi-Fi, and without going into too much detail, basically you can get an IP address, but you can't get out onto the network if you're on our student Wi-Fi, kind of student halls Wi-Fi, for some bizarre reason. It's to do with a bug in the router package we use, and that's as far as I'm going to go because apparently it's like the only bug that the particular company has ever found, and therefore somebody that works for the company or somebody that may have some sort of connection may be able to figure it out from there, so I'm not even going to go there. But anyway, I was suited and booted to go around to do some quote-unquote testing in student halls, which in actual fact it wasn't really testing. Well, it was testing. We did the testing, but we were only really doing the testing as a secondary purpose. Our primary purpose was PR, and look at us, we're IT, we're actually doing some work. Because we've been working on the problem for about 2 months, and none of the students thought we were actually doing any work, so instead of us doing it behind the scenes and actually doing the proper work, we went out and about and pretended to do the work to make it look as though we were actually doing the work. So it's kind of more of a PR exercise than it was a technical exercise, and it was kind of a waste of time. Well, it wasn't, because it did mean that we could go around and speak to students and see what their experiences were with the system, and the general consensus was that it was shit. And when we were going out and about, I had 3 devices with me. I had my Galaxy S3, I had an iPad mini, which I'm going to go on to later on, and I had my Xperia Z, and they all of them kind of encountered problems at various different times. So we know for a fact that it was definitely a problem, and I mean, we already knew it was a problem anyway, but it's just kind of a confirmation really, and we took some of the technical guys out and about. And actually, to be honest, I did learn quite a bit about background networking, having a chat with some of the guys that do that kind of stuff. And, you know, I have to say, I didn't realise how out of my depth I was when they were kind of talking about network address translation and all sorts of other stuff and bits and pieces that I really don't have much knowledge of. I know kind of the theory behind network address translation, but I don't quite understand the problem that we've got. So yeah, it was kind of all mostly over my head, but so yeah, there was that. The other thing I found out as well, which is interesting, we've just deployed Meraki access points in student halls via a third-party company. And something interesting I learned was with Meraki APs, you can't do layer 3 roaming. So within our staff corporate, within our main kind of campus access point kind of thing, we can do roaming. So if you're going from one building to another building, you'll roam and you'll keep the same IP address and it'll be fine. And different buildings generally have different subnets because there's so many bloody machines in one building, you need different subnets for all different things. But within student halls, we've got a different subnet for different blocks. And with Meraki, you can only do layer 2 roaming, which basically means that you can only roam within the halls. So each block's got their own subnet, so you can only roam within that subnet, and when you move to a different block, you then have to re-get another IP address, and that's kind of really annoying. Now, roaming generally doesn't really matter on a small scale. Like if you're an SME, it doesn't really matter. Well, small business really, not necessarily medium business, because medium businesses are like 1,000 to 5,000, I think, users. It kind of depends. It's a bit of a grey area in terms of the actual numbers. But for me personally, I would say from about 5,000 upwards is basically a medium enterprise. A small enterprise is anything, 1,000 less really, 1,000 less users, even less than that, maybe 500 users. It's a small business. I suppose medium business, I suppose, will be about 1,000 to 10,000 users maybe. I don't know what the official, there is an official definition, but I can never remember it. So yeah, there's that, which is quite, it's interesting and annoying at the same time. I've never done layer 3 kind of stuff. I've never done the kind of whole subnetting at layer 3. I've always done kind of layer 2 stuff, running on 255.255.255.0. I've not really gone any further than that because I've never had to. Because most of the deployments I've done have been coffee shops, cafes, some really small businesses, that kind of stuff. You know, the kind of businesses that will have maybe 10 users, maybe 20 users, and then plus any customers that come in, that kind of stuff. And most of the time, I've only ever touched Meraki once, and I have to say, the Meraki stuff's really cool. It's like, it's idiot-proof, you can kind of just deploy it and forget about it, and it meshes really well, and it does some really funky things, and you can do policing, and you can do tons of stuff, and it's really good. It's the same with Ubiquity stuff, actually. Ubiquity's is exactly the same. I've deployed Ubiquity kit before, which is effing good, although actually getting the kit over here is really difficult and very expensive. Most of the time I deploy TP-Link stuff, which does do kind of some of the sorts of reporting you see with Ubiquity and Meraki, but not on the same kind of level. It's not so advanced. So most of the time I've deployed TP-Link stuff, and I've deployed Ubiquity once, and I've deployed... I didn't directly deploy Meraki. I set up... a third party came in to install Meraki, because they were the third party Meraki installer. They installed a switch, I think, and then I put in the DHCP server and put it through Untangle, basically, because of cost, I think, because I think the customer wanted the best Wi-Fi coverage, but they didn't want to pay for the Meraki DHCP firewall-y kind of thing, and so I kind of came in and deployed a... It was a shitty machine they bought in the end. It was a brand new machine. It was like a Dell OEM kind of job, Core i5, I think it was running, about 8 gigs of RAM. It was actually quite a beastly system to be running routing on quite a small scale, because in the end we only deployed like 5 access points. It was like a cafe, and I'm just trying to think what that was now. But anyway, yeah, so there was that. But yeah, it's quite interesting. It doesn't do layer 3 roaming, really, which is kind of annoying. But I guess really Meraki stuff is not necessarily scalable to that kind of enterprise level IT, really. It's kind of more designed for small to medium enterprises. And now that Cisco owns Meraki, obviously Cisco will probably implement some of their technology on it. And I think what Cisco recently bought them out, obviously, they're probably going to have some kind of plan for it, maybe more for them more SME sort of stuff, because Cisco do a lot of really good enterprise kind of stuff. Pardon me. See, that's, to be honest, that's literally pretty much it. And the only thing I was going to mention was the things I got in Amazon's Black Friday deals, which are a Fitbit, which I got this for 40 quid, which is, it's alright, I guess. This is actually one of the few things I bought which I didn't actually need. I kind of just bought it on a whim because it was cheap. I bought my Hopog, which I've not actually used yet. What else did I buy? I've bought a wireless extender, which I did need. I'll tell you what I did buy. I did buy some Bob Marley coffee, which was quite cheap, and I've not tried it yet. I'm going to try it tomorrow, which will be Saturday. I don't know when this video will go up. It will probably go up on the Saturday morning, because by the time I actually render this, I have to render it overnight, and it's now currently 21:04, and I'm fucking shattered, so I should probably go and edit this video and finish off my beer, which I've barely started, actually. I may even hop onto Skype with some peeps. So yes, let me know what you think of this. If you want me to do another one, let me know. If you think it's a piece of shit and you just didn't care for it, let me know. And if you really like it, I'll do a live stream of it, and because I haven't got a decent webcam. I've got a webcam that I can mount on a tripod now, so it kind of might be better. The other thing I didn't mention is I've got a Lego Advent calendar, which I haven't actually opened today. I suppose I could open it up now, couldn't I, really? Let's get that out of the way. That's the trouble with going live to tape. It's just far too annoying. What day is it today? 6th. 6th today. There we go. I have to say, I don't care what you guys think about Lego and stuff. I'm 22 years old, and yes, I still do play with Lego. Oh, open your coat. I don't even care. What have I got? I've got a robber, apparently. Actually, tell you what, hang fire, and I'll put it together with a bit of a Go on, son. They always seem to give you about 1,000,001 extra bits and pieces in Lego. I suppose what I should have done is I should have done a close-up cam shot of this shit. I need to put some Swagalicious. Whoops. Maybe that's why they give you a spare, because you dropped them. Hang on. I'll put one of his spare. He's got like 2 spare scarves. This is a very stereotypical robber that you see in. He's got like a Mask of Zorro-esque kind of thing on it. I'm not going to try and do. I need to get. Tell you what, I do need to get. I do need to get a decent lens, so that I can do proper zoom and it's not going to like proper macro shit. Although his hat seems a bit. And then apparently he's got a mug of something. I don't really know why a robber would have a mug. So yeah, there you go. That's my advent calendar thing for today. I've actually got many things. I've got a snowman with a carrot or a dildo, depends upon what you think. I've got a very weird looking policeman who's looking far too happy. I've got a fireplace. I've got a dog who looks a little bit constipated. And I've got a bin with a set of handcuffs, a crowbar, and a axe in it, or an axe, which is a bit bizarre. So yes, anyway, let me know what you think of it. If you thought it was shit, tell me it was shit, and I won't bother with it again. We'll just forget it ever happened. Buy a t-shirt. If you haven't bought a t-shirt already, buy a motherfucking t-shirt. The vest I'm currently wearing, by the way, is by Demand Clothing. They make some really, really sweet stuff, so go and check them out, because I'm not sponsored by them, don't worry. Although I do quite fancy being sponsored by them. I wish I was, but unfortunately I'm not. They do make some really, really cool stuff. I don't care if you hate the vest. I don't care if you think I look like an idiot and I'm the skinny, geeky guy that just doesn't fit. I don't care. It's a Friday evening. I can't be fucked with life. Well, I can, but I'm just tired. Which is why I'm drinking a beer, which is why I'm doing this video, which is why I'm now rambling. So, email me azurjoe@gmail.com with any questions, queries, whatever. If you want me to do any sort of specific content, if you really like the video, of course, comment down below. I think that's literally everything. So apart from that, I shall catch you in brew time, which will probably be, well, hopefully it will be Tuesday evening. But it may be Wednesday morning like it was last week. So yes, apart from that, I shall catch you in a later video.